I get those goosebumps every time you come around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the Heimlich, throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713, could've 21, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me? Why they on me? I'm flying, sipping low key. I'm sipping low key and flying, I get those goosebumps every time I'm around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments, I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time I need the Heimlich, throw that.
Back again. Welcome all to Loaded Mag NUFC talk in TOON. We're back. I'm excited about this one, I'm not gonna lie. Back again talking with the boys. But first of all, Daz, Chris, how are you on this fine Wednesday evening?
All good with me, Pete. Busy. So yeah, all good with me. Looking forward to chatting to the lads, getting Josh, getting Specs, and our debutant on Phil from Toon Tactics TV as well. So looking forward to having a chat with the lads and talking all things too.
Yeah, Chris, there's not a lot to talk about at the moment, is there? Newcastle.
No, it's pretty quiet, isn't it, Pete? Yeah, there's not much going on. Do you know what? It's funny actually because I don't normally. I'm not massively active on X. But you know, the last day or so, I've had a bit more time, so I've been like popping in and out, and it's funny because like on my timeline, it's just I've got Daz, I've got Pete, and then Loses and. It's just all going off at the moment, isn't it, with Newcastle United? And that's why like yourself, that's why I've been really looking forward to having the lads on tonight. So it's great to have Josh and Specs back, and obviously to invite Phil on for the first time as well. So should be a really good chat. I'm looking forward to it.
It will be. We set the topics tonight, so it's going to be very, very interesting how these boys react to this and how we react to this, because we'll be answering these questions as well. But look, so many already flying into the chat. Great to have you in there. Alan St. Maximin, you're becoming a regular. Shouldn't you be playing in Saudi?
Yeah.
Is there no game in Saudi right now? What's the situation with that one? And NUFC Mad Dog, not Tyndall, NUFC Mad Dog. Great to have you in there. Tom Dixon and Lisa, the Spanners, are in the house. Great to see as well. Jordan Toon for life as well. Kevin in the house. Brett's in the house. That's all I can see on the comments as well. But I know there's a lot more. Welcome everybody to the channel. And make sure you get those questions in for the guys. And on cue as well.
We need a target, lads.
I was about to say, as we set the target, get those likes and subscribes in. But Daz, take us away. What target we're going for tonight, mate?
Well, the last target I said 200. Then I upped it to 250 because the prices increases and the likes show me the likes. But and they blew it away. It was 400 likes we got or more, and they're growing for that show. So I'm going to go easy. I'm going to say 225. How about that? 225. I'll make a fool of me again by blowing it out of the water.
Yeah,
that's your challenge.
You know what to do, people. Get those likes in as well. And look, let's get everybody in so we can get this discussion up and running. It's an absolute pleasure to welcome back Geordie Josh.
Welcome back, Josh.
There we have it, lads. Pete, Daz, Chris, great to see your faces again, lads, and thank you very much for welcoming me back on. I really enjoyed the last one. Fingers crossed, it's a very good one yet again.
Top stuff.
Nice one, Josh.
Good man.
Great stuff. And he just arrived not long ago. All setting up. We've got the main man. We've got Geordie Dread. We've got Specs in the house.
No, hang on. Before we bring in Specs, because we already have a Jamaican Geordie, Dan Lawless. I thought Dan Lawless was a Jamaican Geordie. Are we getting rid of him? He's gone. Yeah, gone. I think we have a better one here in Specs anyway. Welcome back, Specs.
Yeah, good man.
What's going on, brothers? Man, I appreciate. Big up Josh, big up all you three, man. Get me? I appreciate Chris Daz, Pete. I'm back again. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate, man, and I hope everyone's doing well and fine. I'm ready for the talk, man. Let's go.
Yeah, hey,
Man.
Good to see you, mate.
spot on.
That's all.
And this perfect opportunity to welcome in the debutant for tonight. We've got Philip in the house from TOON Tactics TV.
And not only that, Pete, he is a loaded ultra. Welcome, Philip.
Yes.
Thank you so much for the invite, guys. Like I was saying in the back room, I've been watching you guys just before the takeover. I'm not going to go through the Steve Bruce era because that was traumatic. Already, my heart's palpitating and everything that went with that. So, like, it really does feel like I'm like with my heroes here on the channel. So it's great to be on here. Obviously, I know Specs from previous times as well. Good to see you, sir. And Josh, I actually got to see your stuff through. I only recently started going on TikTok, and one of the guys that does follow me constantly reposts your stuff. And I'm like, he's a big fan. Like your material is absolute quality. So it's a pleasure to be here with you, Chris, Daz, Pete, and the chat as well. I've spoke to people like I think Lisa, Jordy TOON for Life, others. So it's a real pleasure to be on here.
Love it. Well, it's a pleasure to have you. To have on the channel. I know Daz had spoken to you a while back to get you on, and you're here now, so great to have you. And we're not going to be holding back tonight. It's all like that. We're going to be throwing these questions out. We're going to put all three under the microscope tonight. And look, there's questions coming in from people in the chat, and if you haven't, get those questions in because there will be that section tonight. But look, we have to start with, we're going to start with a element of Dan Ashworth anyway. However, tonight it's gone off again because Sir Jim Radcliffe has also come out and had his sort of first interview with talking about Man United, and he's had his opinions on Dan Ashworth. And United View Flex tweeted this out earlier. And I'll just read it really, really quickly. Jim Ratcliffe on Dan Ashworth serving the gardening leave. It says, I think it's a bit silly, personally. I won't get dragged into that. What I do think is completely absurd is suggesting a man who is really good at his job sits in his garden for 1.5 years. We had a very grown-up conversation with City about Barada. When things got done, we sorted it out very amicably. They could see why he wanted to take that challenge. You look at Pep Guardiola, when he's done with one of his footballers, he doesn't want them to sit in the garden for 1.5 years. He doesn't do that. That's not the way the UK works or the laws work. Now, interesting. Comments from him that have sparked a lot of interest, including from us, Unloaded. We've had our opinions too tonight on all this conversation. And look, the simple question I've got for you to start off tonight, and I'll get your opinions on this, is Sir Jim talking shit? And look, Philip, we'll start with you. The debutant, talk to us. Is Sir Jim talking shy?
It's a bit of media banter to try and get the public on his side and press Newcastle. It's interesting to see the bit of undertones about this is how the law works in the UK here, like kind of highlighting that we've got Saudi owners, and that's a very interesting take from it. It's the first time I read that, and look, I know that he's obviously he's a billionaire, has been doing things for a long time. He's been a chairman of Nice, but I hope to see how he would react if Real Madrid came along for Kobe Mainoo. Would he be so amicable and say, "Let's get this done within a week, guys. We don't want him to hang around"? I somehow doubt it, and I think he knows that the issue for Newcastle, and as Eddie Howe pointed out, isn't necessarily that Dan Ashworth is. And again, how do you just say things without sounding as if you're salty when you're not really? Dan Ashworth has said what he does. He's the spoke in the middle of the wheel. he brings all organizations together and does that. And you know, unfortunately there is a lack of, I don't know if there's a lack of people that can do it to that level, but it doesn't mean there isn't people that can't do that. That's why Newcastle are looking for them right now. So it's not the point that Dan Ashworth, we can't get essentially another Dan Ashworth or someone that can do a similar job. We're already a well-run club. I think the point is, as Eddie Howe pointed out, is the concern that he called it intel. Eddie Howe actually called it intel that he has on our transfer business and then what we're doing. And so we're not in a rush to do that, especially before the transfer window has occurred. I think the battle for the summer transfer window has already started, and it started in the boardroom as well. So look, I don't see what Sir Jim Ratcliffe's rush is. They're not doing any transfer business now. I'm sure there's somebody else that can move the tables and chairs around in the Man United back room. He can just give it away. And you know, the other responses, as been said, pay the money, and we can get this done over quickly. But I see this being a media war, and it's interesting how now fans are bantering each other. And I saw fans saying, "Oh, we've taken someone, Wilcox from Man City. We've taken this head of medical recruitment from Arsenal. This shows we're a big club." I'm like, whoa, sheesh, is that the levels we have stooped down to? I thought it was about winning trophies, but we are where we are. And yeah, I think it's a bit of media warfare and campaigning. There'll be a lot more of it, and it's important for myself as a TOON fan and others to just keep focused and stay calm, I think.
Yeah, no, some great points there from yourself, Philip. Jordy, Josh, I'll come to you. Josh, in your opinion, is all of the conversation and the opinion of Sir Jim Ratcliffe a load of nonsense? Is it shite? What are your thoughts on what's kind of broken in the last couple of hours?
My thoughts on it, mate. First of all, away from obviously Man United wanting to take one of our employees, or I know he's on gardening leave, it's the whole comments of Sir Jim Ratcliffe actually have left me genuinely so annoyed for so many reasons. These they're going on as if like they can just take Dan Ashworth off us. He's got a contract here. Look, if you want him, you're going to have to pay him. He's on our books. We're paying him money. He's got a contract here. You can't just turn over and say, right, we want him. Have him here. Absolutely not. He's under our books. You've got to buy him. And another thing what actually left me pretty annoyed, and I think is very hypocritical from Sir Jim Ratcliffe as well, I'm sure with the image you've just put up, didn't he say something like, it's not how the UK works to leave someone out sitting for a year on the sidelines or something like that? There it is, yeah. This is the same club where Eric Ten Hag didn't play Jadon Sancho for months and months on end. He's an unbelievably talented footballer, one of the hottest prospects in the world, right? Yeah. And he's sitting on the sidelines for something that's, however, it's obviously something that can be sorted. It's a disagreement between the manager and the player. But look, he's going on with Borussia Dortmund. He's already flourishing. So you can't treat someone like that when you've been very hypocritical on the other side too, Dan Ashworth. But look, it's not as if it is illegal for Dan Ashworth to go to Manchester United, but it's rock bottom. If you want him, you have to pay for him. If you're not going to, well, you're just going to have to wait 2 years for him. It's as simple as that.
No, great points from Josh as well. Look, Specs, this has all been a bit of a madness over the last week or so, but it just seems that Man United are continuing to throw comments and shade Newcastle's way in the media. What have you made of this all, mate?
Look, man, first of all, I'm going to say what goes around comes around. When we was interested in Jesse Lingard, you remember that? Remember that whole Ferrara on how they, as a club, how they were going on? It was absolutely disgusting. So it is what it is. Furthermore, I'm all up for it. I want 20 mil as being alleged, as what it's been saying, and I want every single damn penny. So he can sit on garden leave for God knows how long. Who cares, isn't it? He's not like, think about it. It's kind of true what one of the pundits said on the other channels. You know, it's like, you're basically stealing our vision.
Yeah.
You're taking him. Look, I'm going to be honest. It is what it is, isn't it? Because, yes, Brighton had him. We did the same thing. We had to wait for gardening leave, etc., etc. These things happen. But for me, when you went to Newcastle, I genuinely believed in the vision and that he was here for the long haul. But that's the energy that I got from him.
Yeah.
And then now all of a sudden, you jump in ship, Rackers making comments. he can do one. So he can say all he wants. It was inevitable. We always knew it was going to happen. The gardening leave, we knew it was coming. We knew you had to pay compensation. I thought it was 10 mil, but now they're saying, boy, if you really like, you see, I get so upset, angry because how can Ratcliffe say all this? It's like if you really want your man, you really mean business with your 26.7% stake and blah blah blah, pay the money. It's as simple as that. You can't be moaning, saying you're sitting on the side, oh, it's illegal or this and that, and it's not nice. How can you let a man sit in garden and leave? Well, if that's the case, go save your man, take him, and call it a day.
Yeah.
It is what it is, man. So he can do one. I don't want to like get too upset because I don't want to swear. So I'm trying to keep calm. But like I said, I'm kind of all done with the whole Ashworth thing. But obviously, we're having a conversation as Newcastle fans with the viewers and everyone watching. So for me, Ratcliffe can do one. I'm actually shocked that statement's real. Is that actually real? Is that really like? Is that a real statement that he made or a real comment he made?
Yeah.
Because it actually sounded like when you was reading it out, I thought you was trolling.
No.
I was like, did you actually say that?
No,
honestly,
that's only one section on Dan Ashworth. What you can see there, United View tweeted out that word for word in what he said, and it was a sit down interview with a BBC reporter. It was actually a reporter that doesn't speak very well on Newcastle United and likes to throw shade, and certainly threw a lot of shade on Newcastle United when we were in the process of getting our takeover. Interesting. But yeah, it was that sit down interview where he said those exact words. That is what he said tonight, because it's only just come out in the last couple of hours.
Okay, that's recent. That's very okay. Well, look, put it this way, man. You ain't gonna hit the end of this, man. This is gonna get messy. Like, I doubt you'll see Ashworth at Man United anytime soon, unless they pay up. And that's it. And Newcastle should stick to their guns. Like, it's not a thing of, oh, you did the same thing to Brighton. Yeah, I understand, but he's under contract. We've got him. So however we want to deal with things, you have to go by it or drop on.
Yeah, and we weren't making any public statements about, I can't believe Brighton are making him go on garden leave. It was, I think, as far as I can see, I'd have to ask a Brighton fan really, but we were pretty gentlemanly about it. Paid a compensation, we waited a period of time, and that was that. Nobody made any fuss about it.
Nope.
So for Man United, I think it's funny how the old structures left, but the same elitist attitudes remain. Well, you're all small Newcastle, and you should be able to give us what we want when we want it. It's not the same Newcastle. I keep telling them, from the boardroom to the pitch, and they get into a nasty shock about it, and that's what it is. I'm already excited about whoever the next director of football is going to be, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
And we had that chat when me, Daz, and Chris had that conversation on Monday night. We had a little look at who could potentially be there. We looked at a few names. There's a lot more that we could explore, and that's for sure. I think that's a fair point, Philip, is that looking ahead to what's coming next, because the club did say that that's what they're doing. Darren Neal said that's already underway, which is great. I think Daz or Chris, you put in the chat, Liverpool are losing at half time against Luton at Anfield. Everyone, let us pray. And on that note, I'll move on to Daz and Chris. I want to get your thoughts on this, because we've not really had too much of a chance to have a conversation about this, because it's all sort of broken in between us kind of being on the show tonight. But look, you've seen the comments from Sir Jim Ratcliffe, Daz. You know the standpoint of Newcastle United. What are your thoughts at this point? Have they changed? Have they solidified in any way? What are you thinking right now, mate?
Oh no, I'm still on for getting 20 million for them at least, and that's the stance. That's the starting point. And piss us off, we'll go higher. But I'm just going to go back to Sir Jim, and I know there's been a few comments in the chat. I wanted to bring it up first before we got to the comments. But not only did he make that statement, he made a few more other interesting statements. And the one that he described the Mason Greenwood, let's call it incident, as hype. according to him. So that doesn't sit well at all. So apparently they're going to look at the situation and maybe even bring him back. Who knows? I don't know, but that doesn't sit right. Yeah, so yeah, he made a few interesting statements there today. He's not winning himself much fans with that one. But yeah, I'm just going to cut to another topic linked to this, and I was just talking to you about Pete beforehand, because where you got that tweet from Flex, and Flex had Keith Downey on today. And in that, Keith Downey gave his opinion on how things would play out. Because Flex asked him, "Do you think that Dan Ashworth would be in place by the summer?" And Keith said that his opinion that it'll rumble on that he wouldn't be in place for the summer, which would suit Newcastle, because then they don't have intimate details of our summer transfer plans, and that he would more than likely be in place by the January transfer window, that it would rumble on potentially that far. Now, unless they're willing to pay the 20 million, get the deal done, then so be it. But as long as it continues, it's at least we're not sitting on our hands either. We're moving forward and looking to bring in someone now as well. And Chris, I'm going to go to a tweet that you tweeted out as well. I think someone sent it on that Dan Ashworth. Look, we know what we're doing with good old Jeff Hendrick, paying his wages, but it's a hell of a lot less we're paying Dan Ashworth, and so he can sit as well. So it will get resolved, though, I think, but maybe not until after the summer and we have all our signings in.
Chris, from that point of view, like Daz has been very kind of staunch in his opinion that 20 million, that's how much they need to pay in order to get him out. He's not willing to negotiate on that. Are you of the same mindset? What are your thoughts on Jim Ratcliffe's comments? And when do you think, in your opinion, this gets resolved? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, that wasn't a great start, was it? Although it might be better if I was on mute. I've got to admit, like I find his comments just a load of waffle. They're absurd. They're just ridiculous. You know, he can't start, like, to borrow a 12-man phrase, Pete. He can't start like puffing his chest out. He can't start doing that. He's literally. I think the ownership got passed, didn't it? It was either today or yesterday.
Yes.
And now he's coming out and he's talking about things that he doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. I know he's owned football clubs in the past, but he can't expect to just kind of come into the UK, come into the Premier League, take over Man United, or partially take over Man United, should I say, and start cherry picking other clubs, players, staff, whatever, and just expect them to roll over, have the belly tickles, and everything be on Man United's terms. It's just ridiculous. And to call it absurd and to say how much of a shame it is that a sporting director of the quality of Dan Ashworth shouldn't be on gardening leave for 18 months. Well, that's up to you to sort out then, isn't it? Because he's our sporting director. He's not yours. He's ours. And if you want him, you pay for him. And if you pay for him, he's yours, and you can do what the hell you want with him. Until then, he's our sporting director, and we'll choose to do whatever we want to do. And for me, I can't believe how arrogant he's coming across, because that's what it comes across as, just arrogance. And we're getting loads and loads of Man United fans. I've seen loads in the chat, not in the chat, sorry, on X, and coming out on in videos and stuff and saying, oh, who do Newcastle think they are?
Yeah.
Hang on, are you for real? Are you for real? Like, if they and then him talking about Berardi, the one that the director that they got from Man City, totally different scenario, totally different position. He hadn't just joined Man City, and Man City are probably thinking, well, if Man City are willing to let him go, and Man City are already lining someone up, that's their business. But because we want a decent fee for Dan Ashworth, and they clearly don't want to pay a decent fee, that's us being unreasonable, or that's us throwing our toys out the pram, or that's us being petty. And it's like, really? Is that really how you see it? And the fact that he's come out and said all of this, unfortunately for him, I think he thinks he's being quite bullish and quite clever, and that he can kind of like barge his way to the front of the queue and go, "We're Man United, we're back." And it's like, well, sorry, mate, you're gonna have to wait. And also, all you're doing is winding up our owners, because I tell you what, when our owners see that, it wouldn't surprise me if the price went up and they just turned around and went, "Yeah, it's 25 now, mate." Because at the end of the day, they want him now. We spoke about this the other day, didn't we, Pete? They want him now.
Yeah.
And we've put him on gardening leave. So as far as we're concerned, we've removed him from the club. So he's no longer our concern, and he's not going to come back to the club. And we're currently paying him, as you boys mentioned before, we're currently paying him a alleged $1.5 million a season, which is about 30 grand a week. And it's like, sound. Don't worry about it. We'll get on with finding our new sporting director. You get on with buying our sporting director. That should be what it is. And it doesn't matter if we want 20 million, 50 million, 100 million. He's our sporting director. He's not yours. So I can't see why he's come out and been so bullish and so like what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's even beyond arrogance.
Like the man in charge. I think, to be honest, when these
entitled.
Yeah. And I think I was saying it on my channel that I feel like I always think, why did this information come out in the first place, and how did it come out, and who does it purpose? I always suspected that. I thought it was Man United leaks, and I was talking to Man United fans about it, and one of them was because I watch a lot of their content, and because they've forever got historical issues with people leaking stuff out of their clubs. And I think with him coming in, I think he was trying to sound the horn and say, like you said, he wanted to be shown as the man in charge. This is the takeover. There's a wind of change blowing. We're going to blow all over Newcastle over. We're going to take Dan Ashworth from here. We're going to take a Barada from Man City over there. I doubt Barada was doing too much at Man City. They're a machine that's already rolling. It wasn't that much of an issue to let him go. Dan Ashworth, as Eddie Howe said, hadn't spent much time here to see the fruits of his labors. However, he's got a whole lot of intel that Eddie doesn't like. And I don't know what if you guys saw, because I'm focusing on the press conference in particular that Eddie Howe had for the Bournemouth game. And there's a lot, Eddie Howe is dropping little tidbits that let me know that I almost feel like Eddie Howe didn't trust him from the beginning almost. And they took them a while to even warm to each other in the first place. So I don't know what happened there, but Dan Ashworth it's not that he didn't do anything, but he did do some stuff. But the problem is the intel and the vision of the club, as was pointed out, and that's what Man United want to get their hands on, and so we're not willing to do that. And I think this is going to be a media warfare for a while now, and it'll be interesting to see how our owners. But at the same time, though, I don't know if you guys remember, is our owners do the same thing. So if anybody remember Barella and Tonali situation, and you've still got a few journalists that got their noises out of joint, because not only did we, I think, fool a few in terms of making them feel like we're getting Barella and we ended up getting Tonali, but we gave a big old news article and Telegraph about it, telling them how we fooled the journalists in the first place, a whole length. We celebrated it, and I'm like, guys, can we win a trophy? Can we do that first? Let's not win do over negotiations sort of thing. So there's a lot of boardroom warfare. Plus, if you remember, we had the votes over multi-club ownership. And at a time, actually, it was a month before, Dan Ashworth whispered the two words, Ruben Neves. And the league went on fire about multi-club ownerships. And all of a sudden, there's a vote here, there's a vote on that. I think there's a lot of shenanigans going. The Telegraph already labeled us the leaders of the rebellion. Wolves, Nottingham Forest, all of them. That all of a sudden, they've got chest out because Newcastle are like, hey, well, I like this multi-club. No, I don't like this FFP stuff either. So everyone's getting behind. So I think there's a lot going on in the background. I think you can make a film about it, but it all adds into the drama of it. And so I think Ratcliffe is stepping into it, but he needs to be careful about. There's always a blowback to these type of things if you're not careful.
Yeah. Honestly, lads, I think at some point that interview there from Sir Jim Ratcliffe will come back to haunt him.
Yeah.
I genuinely think the comments he's made, and it's not just the comments on Ashworth. I think it's the comments on Mason Greenwood, which I find absolutely baffling.
Yeah.
That in his first interview at Man United as a co-owner, he gives the possibility of Mason Greenwood coming back in. If I'm one of those kind of representative organizations on rape, on abuse, on all those categories, I'm going mad right now. I'm going mad that one of the biggest establishments in this country, let's not get it twisted, Manchester United are one of the biggest clubs, if not the biggest club in this country. As much as we hate to say that, it's a reality. And from that point, you can understand why Ashworth's going there, from that point only. But for them to come out and their co-owner say that in his first interview, I think is an absolute blooper, ready to be pushed back time and time again, right, for people to laugh at later on because of how crazy those sort of comments are. It's already been said tonight by a number of Newcastle journalists, including Keith Downey, as you said, Daz, quite rightly, that Newcastle United aren't going anywhere. I think they have misunderstood the situation with Newcastle United. We are not in this situation that we were under Steve Bruce, under Mike Ashley, where we could have been bullied and would have been allowed to be bullied. We're not that same Newcastle United right now. And I think at this point, it might be seen as we're holding things up, or we're holding things up for Man United and for that big club. But actually, no, we're standing our ground because we had a project in place, guys. We had a project. We had a guy that was knitting everything together and starting to do it. And he just gets pulled away like that, like nothing. And we're just meant to accept it. Nah. Not for me. We need to pay big. Sorry, Mom.
No, cool. No, because the more you talk about it, this is why they're going to talk about it. Because the more you talk about it, it's going to get me agitated. Because I'm already agitated anyway about the whole thing. Because for me, the whole Dan Ashworth thing was just a bloody waste of time. Then that's what it was. Just a waste of time. Yeah. And I can only imagine behind the scenes how fuming Amanda, all of that. Deep down they want to come out and blast Man United and blast Ratcliffe and blast Ashworth. But obviously we got class and we ain't going to do things down that road. We just do things quietly, but in an indirect way. Let's say the money, what we want, etc., etc. Ratcliffe, for me, his attitude stinks. I think he's coming in and just trying, like some of you alluded to, he's just trying to show, flex his muscles. And I think it's also he's trying to show the Man United fans yo, I'm here, I mean business, and get them on side from now. And you get what I'm saying? Because obviously he knows the fans have been really rooting for him to come. So I think he's feeding off that as well. He feels like the big man, ego. That's what he's got right now. So he feels you get what I'm saying? So the whole Ashworth thing, look, man, Ashworth, you can do what you want in it. At the end of the day, we're all humans, we all got personal lives or ambitions, or apparently he will work through him because he's more near to his family, etc., etc. I get all that. And like you said, Manchester United ain't just a club; they're an institution. You understand? It's a proper thing. You know what I'm saying? So I get it. I really do get it. But for me, like I said, he went all out to go Newcastle. It's not like he's just going to any old club. We're going places. We're not going nowhere, as you said. So that's why this thing, what was it all about then? I wouldn't be surprised if Madrid came in for him 2 years later and he wants to jump ship and go to sunny Madrid. I wouldn't be surprised.
You know what? He's already proven it already, whether it's from West Brom to the FA, to Brighton, to Newcastle, now to Man United. He's already proven that he is quite willing to jump ship whenever it comes along. Yeah. So, sorry.
I wanted to ask you guys, I don't know if this is going to be the follow-up question, because again, going back to Eddie Howe, kind of 2 questions really in one. And it kind of connects to obviously Eddie Howe, his relationship with Dan Ashworth, because now it makes me think, is this one of the reasons why we didn't buy anyone in the winter transfer window, for instance? And the other question in terms of going forward for the next director of football, I think I know what my ideal answer would be, but is the next director of football going to have to fit his vision around Eddie Howe rather than Eddie Howe fit his vision around the director of football, which is what I was saying in my video previously. Because the idea is that ideally Newcastle would have been in the program when all of this first kicked off, the takeover kicked off. They would have preferred to have a director of football, that director of football get a manager, and then they work together. But obviously, it worked the other way around. Because Eddie Howe was alluding a lot in his press conference again that when Dan Ashworth came, what Eddie Howe liked about him is that he didn't try to change everything because there was already systems and processes in place. But those systems and processes that were in place were by Eddie Howe and the others. So that's still there. So whoever's going to come in now, those processes still exist. So what does that mean in terms of for the next director of football coming in? Are they going to be working under those parameters going forward? Because ideally, it shouldn't really work like that. No manager, I think, especially with the structure that we've got, dictates to the club, not dictates, but I guess sets the policy for the club what it should be. And I understand why it happened that way, obviously, because we were in a relegation, we had nobody in place. Eddie Howe came in, his team came in, and literally, I can probably say all the players that we got on the winter transfer window was because of his knowledge and connections and scouting. But what's it going to be going forward now? Then how's it going to work out essentially? What do you guys think?
Josh, do you want to take that one to start with?
Honestly, I mean, the whole situation in itself, like I said, I am really annoyed, but I do agree with what you've said, mate. I think when this new sporting director or whatever head of football comes in, they are going to have to work around Eddie Howe, as we're seeing in that press conference. Normally, well, probably actually 10 times out of 10, Eddie Howe, with the injuries, with transfer news, he's very, very discreet. He doesn't lead on with anything. For example, Joe Willock has been close to coming back for about 3 months. Harvey Barnes was close to coming back for about 2 months, and he's only just come back. And you know what he's like with the transfer sort of stuff. This isn't true. That's not true. We've got 10 lined up the next week. So he's very, very discreet. But in that press conference where he was getting asked about Dan Ashworth, look, I think it's fair to say he wasn't holding back whatsoever, lads. He was pretty much leading on that Dan Ashworth was a bit of a snake, really didn't really care. Look, in my opinion, yes, I do agree. When the new person comes in, they are going to have to work around Eddie Howe. He's not just the person that gets results on the pitch. He does absolutely everything behind the scenes. He wants to know everything about the transfers, about intel, tactics, all that sort of stuff. He wants to have his head in every single position, which it's what I want for my manager. I don't want my manager just to get the results on the pitch. I want him to know and be ingrained in the football club in itself. I don't think it's a negative. But yet again, when this person does come in, I think I've seen some shouts of Liverpool's ex-man. They are going to have to be very wary of Eddie Howe's sort of, I don't want to put him down, but a bit of a control freak. They are going to have to be pretty wary of that and definitely work around Eddie Howe for that reason.
No, great points, boys. It's a really good question from TOON Tactics. Like Daz, Chris, what are your thoughts on what Philip's had to say?
Yeah, so Philip, spoiler alert, I did watch your video, so I know what you're talking about. And we had similar discussions ourselves in our own chat. I remember pointing the lads to the press conference because something wasn't right about that. He did let a lot of the body language, the tone, everything you could read, pick up on a lot from that. But at the same time, the chat, Twitter, everyone is painting Dan Ashworth as the villain as well, right? But what if he came in and the job that was promised him wasn't? Didn't have as much control as he was promised, and I agree with you that whoever does come in has to know that. Eddie Howe, because Eddie Howe looks like he's a permanent fixture. You're going to have to work really, really well with Eddie Howe. You're not going to be above Eddie Howe. You're going to be on a par or under him in a way, because he's been there. He's have more seniority. He's got us into the Champions League. Hopefully in the summer he brings in more players, and we have another cracking season next season. So he's got credit in the bank, let's say. So. that'll be a factor in whoever they choose, and I'd say Eddie Howe will be involved in those discussions and those interviews as well. But when they whittle it down to who they're going to talk to, and it may actually rule some people out as well if they're not going to work with them. So from that interview, from that press conference, you do kind of pick up a lot from that, I think.
We definitely do now. We speculated about it, but now we definitely feel after what's happened that's the case. But I'm going to go in a slightly different direction with yourself, Chris, and it's still on the topic, but Chris and Spec slightly different. Just to add in, Mark Douglas of the iPaper put in another really good article tonight, and he actually answers that question, Philip, and he actually says that the next sporting director, they're actually going to make tweaks to the role. That's what he's suggesting, that they're going to tweak the role slightly to ensure that it fits around the current model that Newcastle United have, which I thought was quite interesting. That says to me that there were things that Dan Ashworth wanted to do that he wasn't able to do because Eddie Howe had a lot of a say on certain things, which we already speculated about. But I think they very much so in what Daz has said is that from what Mark said tonight in his piece, that's what they're looking to do. They're looking to fit around what Eddie Howe and his team do, and that person will just do the other bits within the role. What that is definitely up for speculation. But I wanted to come to a slightly different question, because we still talk about sporting directors, but Specs, Chris, will come to you with this, and boys chip in if you feel the need to. Is it crucial to have a sporting director in place for the summer? So we're talking about swift resolutions already underway, looking for the next sporting director. But for this summer, is it crucial to have one in place? Specs, what are your thoughts on that, fella?
You know what? That's a tricky one, because we don't know every single thing that goes on behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying? It's not everything that we know. But because don't get it twisted. Remember before Dan Ashworth or even during, some of the transfers were done without anything to do with him anyway. If you really deep it and check it, do you get what I'm saying? But in terms of the summer and where we're trying to go and push forward, I think whatever within our powers we could put in place, which will enhance the team in a positive way, as long as Eddie's on board with it as well, because you can't have that a director and Eddie and it's not meshing. That's a recipe for disaster. They could work something out. I think it can only be positive. I don't think it's to be an end all, to be honest, but it probably will help. The more people on board, the more it can help to sort things out and do due diligence and get everything right, and not have one person or the other doing too much on one thing, like a proper team. Do you get what I'm saying? Because the whole Tonali thing, yes, he's got what's it called? Gambling problem, etc., etc. But I do think, just in general, not just gambling, stuff like due diligence and just really hands-on to where we're trying to go and really show just the world of football that we really mean business. So I don't think it's a negative thing. I don't think it's to be an end all, but the more hands-on and everyone working together properly, it can only be a positive. Has to be.
Yeah. Expects the Judy to go.
I was going to go on that in 5 minutes, but I'll just, if you're going to ask other questions, I'll just go now and then I can shoot off quick, if that's all right with you. And then
do what you need to do, and look, we'll get you back on for the next one anyway.
You know where I'm at, bro. You know where I'm at, everyone. I'm here, bro. You just call on me. I'm here, man. Not a problem. I enjoy it, and I enjoy talking to the lads. Big up Team Tactics making his debut. Josh again. All you three guys, man, you made me feel so welcome, and I appreciate the help that you're doing for me as well. I appreciate it.
Respects. See you soon.
One,
See
yeah?
you later.
Take it easy, mate.
Peace, man.
See you later. Make sure you get on a sub to the Geordie Dread TV channel. Make sure you go and support Specs in what he's doing there. Chris, just to add on to that, before we move on to other topics related to Newcastle United, is it crucial to have a sporting director in place for the summer window?
Me personally, and I think I shared my opinion on this as well. Me personally, I'd love for that to be the case. I wouldn't necessarily say it's crucial, because if you'd asked me back and Specs already alluded to this, if you'd asked me back in the Ashley days when Lee Charnley was basically running everything and Lee Charnley wasn't qualified to do any of what he was doing, then yes, it would be crucial. But for me now, we've got that much experience and we've got that much talent now, within the boardroom and, running things at the club. I'm sure that, we could do without a sporting director and well, for the short-term future anyway. I would really like one in, but on the other hand, I want it to be the right person. I want to make sure that it's the right appointment. And just to add into what Daz said earlier, I think it's a really good point what Daz said, about like changing the role and us realizing that, maybe things weren't happening for Dan Ashworth, like he wasn't happy in the role. But I think as well, the owners, oh my God, it's 2 on Liverpool. You couldn't make it up. So as much as I think it's crucial, I would much rather bring in the right man. But yeah, the point I was making about Daz's comment, about it not maybe working out for Dan Ashworth and how he'd hoped. I would also caveat that with, I hope the owners are looking more long term. I'm sure they are. And that's not to say that, they should bring someone in and sod what Eddie Howe thinks. I don't mean that. But it should work for both parties. It shouldn't just be, right, Eddie, who do you want? We'll bring in who you want, Eddie. It should be who they want, and say to Eddie, listen, this is the guy we want. Or, hopefully Eddie has a say in it as well. And then it's like, how can you best work together? Let's make things work. And, it could be that you say to the sporting director, listen, in this current model, as things stand, as things are, this is how things are going to be. And I'm not, tempting fate or, predicting things, but if, Eddie Howe was to leave in the next 12 to 18 months, I wouldn't then want a sporting director who is out of his depth and has to do things that perhaps under the new manager that maybe he isn't capable of, or they wish they had a different man in who could do the job better. So for me, it's about getting the right man in at the right time and making sure that, they're the right person for the role, and then obviously working around Eddie Howe, as Dad said.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see how it all works out. Whether we do wait until the summer, whether we get someone in swiftly to be a part of that conversation in planning ahead for the summer. What it's clear is that Dan Ashworth is gone, and they are already moving on as a club to find the next person. Whether it's now or the summer for that. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out in the next few days, next week or so, when we're on to talking TOON again, how it's transpired from now to then. That'll be very, very interesting. But Josh, I'm going to come to you with this question, and panel, please feel free to get involved in this. An interesting one off the back of the game on Saturday. Do you agree with a section of the fans that games against Luton and Bournemouth were entertaining? Are you happy with this? Lots of talk about the game, not necessarily frustrated about the result or slightly frustrated about the result, but walking away going, what a game, entertaining game, and being happy with that. Are you of that mindset, or are you thinking differently? What are your thoughts on that, Josh?
It's a bit of a weird one because I'll start straight off like this. Last season, honestly, of course, go midway through the season, we had an unbelievable record at St. James's Park. And going at the start of this season as well, I was, of course, I have a season ticket. I was going into every single game. I was sitting there, arms crossed, thinking we can take any single team. Yeah. I'm confident in every single game. Honestly, when Liverpool beat us, I was, what's going on here? That's literally what I was thinking. Like, what on earth is going on here? We've just been beaten at St. James's Park. I forgot when the last time we actually did get beat off someone at St. James's Park. But we've recently started dropping points to, with all due respect to the teams we should be getting points against. Nottingham Forest, which, if I do stand corrected, that's the only non-Big Six team we've lost to in the Premier League at home. And the last one before that was when we lost 4-2 to West Ham at St. James's Park in the opening season of the 21-22 season. But what I was going to say is the Luton game in itself, I think that was just one of them Premier League classics game. You can take that look out. Of course, we should really be beating Luton at home, but they played unbelievable football. They definitely deserved a point in that game. I'm not taking anything away from them. We probably did deserve a point, but of course, that Ogbene absolutely rinsed Danburn. That was their catalyst to get a point from that game. So that one, Luton played well. Newcastle played half decent. A point shared is okay. 8 goals, 4 goals apiece. it's one of the Premier League's entertaining games. Look, it happens. Very good game to watch. But the Bournemouth game, it's a different ball game. We've dropped points at home yet again. And correct us if I'm wrong, lads, but is it no wins in 5 now at home?
Oh, I believe so. It was, yeah, it's either 4 or 5, one of the two.
4 or 5, because it was a draw to Bournemouth, draw to Luton, lost to Manchester City, and lost to Nottingham Forest. Actually, it might be 4 games. But what I was going to say is, look, Luton happens, but Bournemouth, when you've dropped points recently, of course, we did beat Villa away. That was a fantastic result. Forest away. If we're on the course to Europe, and we had more than enough to beat Bournemouth that day. We had Bruno on the pitch. We had Trippier on the pitch. Of course, we didn't have a recognised striker, but we still had more than enough. We should be beating them. Like I said, Luton, fair enough, but Bournemouth is where it has to be turned around. If we are on the course for Europe, we'll have to be winning that game. It's simple as that. And I think a catalyst to not winning these games, and look, I love Eddie Howe. I don't think there'll ever be a manager. I'll stand by his side if we go on a very big losing streak, if he does the right things, which I'm going to get onto in a second. But it's come to a point now where teams, for example, how Bournemouth and Luton genuinely got a point. It wasn't to pinpoint our attack. It wasn't to pinpoint our midfield, which has been a bit leaky recently, but it's to pinpoint Dan Burn every single game. And look, it is harsh to put it all on Dan Burn, but it's what teams are doing. You've seen Semenyo, who all round isn't the best player whatsoever, but his pace is blistering and he has got a pretty decent finish on him. It was a smash. I don't want to say smash and grab by Bournemouth because they played great football yet again, but they were peltering him. As soon as we're seeing it from kickoff, they smashed the ball down the left-hand side on Dan Burn's side, and that's how they got their point at St James's Park. In my opinion, Tino needs to start to sort of turn these games around. But yet again, Joe Linton and Joe Willock not giving that defensive cover there is another catalyst. But yes, to answer the question, Luton was an entertaining game, but Bournemouth simply not good enough.
Interesting thoughts on that. Philip, have you got an opinion on this one? It is a difficult topic for a lot of fans to kind of have an opinion on, but have you got one either way, or are you down the middle?
I think it kind of shows where we are in terms of, I'm going to get all philosophical, but it's about perspective essentially. You can find a game entertaining, but you can also find that you want your club to win at the same time. But it's, I guess, in the era of banter, of social media, oh, you think the game's entertaining, that means you don't want to win trophies. I'm like, no, I do. I want both of the things, but it was an entertaining game. It was an incredible game in terms of finding the resilience to be able to do that. You can say that, but hopefully whoever you're speaking to is going to say, oh, that means you don't want to win. Can't you see that, our defense is leaking, our midfield is leaking, we're in trouble, we need to go to Europe. You should be serious. Football is an escapism, like it is entertainment as well. And can you live in a world where you can integrate both things, entertainment and wanting to win your club to win at the same time? And I think the other perspective is that it depends on I probably, because I've accepted where we are in terms of as a club at the moment, in terms of the player availability a long time ago, especially when we had up to 14 players out. We've got about 10 plus out now. And so I think, and Eddie Howe's perspective is that he's also accepted it. He hasn't got Joe Linton, he hasn't got Willock, he hasn't got those guys. He's not going to do 5-3-2. Forget 5-3-2. He's not going to defend. He's not going to do counter-attacking. You got to. I've left that. Me personally, I said we're in for it today. So he can get results like a 3-1 against Villa, a 3-2 against Forest away. These are good results. West Ham just went to Forest and got turned over. I know West Ham are having a great time, but still. So these things are going to happen. And every team is getting got at. I've just watched Man United away at Luton. I know they won, but Luton played against them like they were a fellow relegation rival. And these things that they're going to have. I think they're not just getting that. I don't think they're just getting that burn. I think they're getting our midfield. I think people underestimate that when the players are lining up in the tunnel and they see big Joe Linton or Tonali and Bruno Gomes, they're thinking, oh my word, I'm going to be in for it's going to be serious today. And you won't see Elanga. I don't think you would see Elanga doing that run if he knows he's going to come against Joe Linton first, because he's going to get clattered. I don't think he does do that. I think he passes it. I think they're just getting our midfield. We've got a 17-year-old boy, very talented for a 17-year-old boy, but still a 17-year-old boy. We've got Longstaff, who I personally love, but he isn't Joe Linton. He isn't Tonali off the ball. He's not Joe Willock off the ball. So every team now thinks, finally, we can get at this team. People forget how we used to absolutely maul teams, suffocate them. Those are the good old days. But when you got those players off on away, teams are now thinking, this is our opportunity. And Howe's perspective is, I'm not going to defend till I die. I'm going to go for the win. It's almost a return back to the entertainers days without trying to be entertainers. It's like survival mode. I'm going to fight before I die, essentially. And that's what it is until we can get some sort of stability back. We hear Isak and Willock are on the wings, but, you know, he's going to be careful with that. I personally won't expect to see them really until the Blackburn game. So I've accepted both. Entertainment and wanting my team to win and trying my best to explain that to folks, but also understanding to help my own blood pressure. My father-in-law will tell you, especially before the takeover happened, after every Newcastle game, I literally had to step outside the road and go for a walk for 45 minutes to let the blood pressure go. So for this, I have to accept Eddie Howe for what he's doing, where the squad is at. That this is because of the gaps that we have. This is his mindset. He's going forward. He's going to attack the league. It's going to cost us. It is going to cost us. But he's seen the risk and reward and he's going for it. So you're going to get 3-2 against Forest. You're going to get 3-1 against Villa. Those results could have been the opposite way around, but they weren't. So I think that's where I'm at with it.
No, interesting points there, for sure. Daz, Chris, I'm going to come to a different question for you. Sure. We're looking for a new striker in the summer. Wilson potentially out the door. Are you taking this man? But not only are you taking that man, would you pay 60, 70 million for Ivan Toney this summer? Now, thinking about the budget, thinking about how much to spend, would you pay 60, 70 million, which is rumored to be the roundabout price to get him out of Brentford? Would you pay it to bring him to Newcastle United in this summer? What are your thoughts, boys?
So have they dropped their 100 million valuation?
They're not getting 100 million for him.
They're not getting 100 million. Yeah, I think Tony is going to be, checking up, I think he's going to be 28 on the 16th of March. I pay 60, yeah, not 70. I pay 60 because he's quality. I don't like us going back as a player that we let go and then us go. That's like a Chelsea move. I don't like that the thoughts of that. But he's quality and he would do a massive job for us. Totally different type of player than Isak as well. So yeah, I would pay 60 million for him. To tell you the truth, he probably wouldn't be my first choice. I'd go for in strikers, but 60 million seems fair. And he'd be great buddies with Tonali, of course, and Trips.
There you go. And Liverpool have certainly flew back tonight with another goal to add to that as well. But look, Chris, your opinions. Ivan Toney, are you paying 60, 70 million to get him to Newcastle United this summer?
Probably not. No, I appreciate Ivan Toney as a player. I think he's a really good player, and he is one that got through the net, if you like. Some people will say that he became the player that he did for leaving Newcastle, which I agree with. But I think, well, not to mention the fact I think he's destined for London. I think he will end up at Tottenham or Arsenal, in my opinion. But I also think that I'm not sure he's the right striker for us. I don't know whether I would want an Ivan Toney at Newcastle playing second fiddle to Alexander Isak, because that's exactly what he'd do. He plays second fiddle to Alexander Isak, and I don't think he's the right personality. I don't think that he would appreciate playing second fiddle to Alexander Isak, and I also think, as Daz said, he's probably the wrong side of his late 20s, if that's even a thing. But he's getting on age-wise. If we were talking about a young 22, 23-year-olds, I might feel differently about it. But for me, I've got in my head, I'm fixated now on this hybrid striker. I want a striker who can play in multiple positions, and I do actually believe that Ivan Toney is best through the middle, and I don't think he can play on the wing. I want a striker who can play anywhere across the front three, and also a striker who's maybe still playing his trades. Maybe he's not quite reached that point yet, which means you could probably pick him up for, less than 50 million, and then we make him into a 60, 70, 80 plus million pound player. That's my opinion on it, because I kind of feel Brentford will be selling him at just the right time, in my opinion. Like, if a club went out and forked out that money for him, he needs to be the number 9. He needs to be the main man, the focal point of whatever team he joins. And at Newcastle, I don't think he would be.
Pete, can I add another bit onto your question? Because Ian TOON Trader is blowing up the chat with his messages, but he adds another. Your mate from the game you're at as well. But he asks the question: does Tony pass the no dickhead test? Not for me. He's got a bad attitude. Yeah, I've seen some videos of that before. He's slagging off Brentford, kind of too big for his boots, kind of thing. But add that to the mix.
Is it arrogance, or is it confidence in his ability? Like that's what I'm going to put out there, and it'd be interesting to get your thoughts, boys. Josh, what are your thoughts for this really quickly? Because I've got one last question for you, and then there's a few questions in the chat. Just to round off. So Josh, then Philip, really quickly, from your opinion, firstly, would you spend the money? Secondly, what do you make of his attitude? Is it a problem for you?
Right. Firstly, I think, would I pay 60, 70 million for Ivan Toney? I believe, if I stand corrected, he's out of contract June or July next year. So first of all, that can play a factor. Do I want to pay 70 mil for someone who's maybe out of contract next year? He's 28 years old. It's not exactly our model, if you want to say that. When you look at the signings we've made, Tonali, 23 years old, Botman, very young, Tino, Gordon, the list goes on, and all the, of course, youth players we've signed under Dan Ashworth, funnily enough. There's no doubt about that. He's an unbelievable striker. He seriously is. Although he's 28 years old and he's probably in the peak of his career, although he's started pretty late. Penalties, fantastic. Free kicks, fantastic. Finishing, fantastic. He is a very good player, yet again, no doubt about that. But there is another side of Ivan Toney. He's like a coin, really. You've got his footballing ability, then you've got his personality. And his personality can be taken two ways, and I definitely can look at it both ways as well. On one side, he looks pretty much just very arrogant. We've seen the videos where, was he on a boat or something, and he said, F Brentford, publicly. That went out with the public. And then someone went up to him and said, what do you do for a job? I play football. Where do you play? He said he plays nowhere special. He went, when he was coming back from his he's banned for gambling. Somebody said, what's your plans in your career? He didn't even speak about Brentford. He said something, well, I'm looking about where I'm going to go. Just nullifying the fact that he's actually under contract from Brentford, where you've had your best years and you're scoring goals. That is unbelievably arrogant. But yet again, like you said, Pete, is that confidence in his ability? It can be taken both ways. And we've seen with Anthony Gordon, 99% of fans were against it because he just looked like this horrible kid who had a horrible attitude and he didn't look like the most talented footballer whatsoever. Eddie Howe's turned him around. Eddie Howe can turn Ivan Toney around. But yet again, if he does come into the squad, he's not going to play ahead of Alexander Isak. Alexander Isak could go out with the left, but Gordon's on the left. Look, in my opinion, I would love Ivan Toney at this football club, but he wouldn't appreciate being, like you said, second fiddle to Alexander Isak. I don't think he'd come for that reason. And I wouldn't pay 60, 70 million for him because he's 28 years old and because his contract runs out pretty soon.
Yeah. I can't disagree with anything you said, and I think David Cook said it really well. I said the way you speak, Josh. I don't know how old you are actually, but you speak of someone that is super knowledgeable and has been following the club for longer, in way more years than probably your age. That's for sure. But
I'm 17, by the way.
Wow.
What? You've surprised even me.
Wow.
Jesus Christ. But no, great response. Philip, yourself, are you the same as Josh, or have you got a different slant on this?
I think I'll prefer to buy João Pedro for 60, 70 million. Especially suits what we do. I know that we were literally there in getting him, and we went for Isak. We have no regrets about that, but I almost wish that we could have got both. But if you're gonna go there and suit our model, João Pedro, Morgan Gibbs-White, they suit our model, and they're totally different profiles to Isak, because you can't get two of the same strikers. I know that Tony and Isak are a bit different. I don't mind having two strikers competing. I think that's the whole point of it. One of them has to sit on the bench if you're not good enough. But I think money could be spent better. One thing Dan Ashworth did say that I did agree with him before when he did join us is that if he's spending 100 million or I guess essentially too much money on players, he's doing a bad job. And I don't want Newcastle. I think it's true. I think we hear other people saying, "Oh, there's nothing about the market is dead." It's not dead. If you watch other football, we've got great guys on social media as well that do scouting reports. There is plenty of talent out there. It's about you actually getting up and looking at it. How about buying a club? A multi-club model might work as well. But anyway, that's what I would do. So there's just tons of stuff, and I think Ivan Toney is the next hype. Someone bought Declan Rice for 100 million. But he's one of the few people that probably is beginning to show that he is worth that much. Tell me the other ones that are worth that, and you couldn't get them for half the price. So I think that's where I'm at with that. I think, and I think like I said, Ivan Toney grew up. He grew as a result of his mistakes in Newcastle. I don't know if you'd want that to be back. In terms of his confidence and arrogance, I'll prefer any player to be confident or arrogant for the club they're playing for. I remember even the dark days under Steve Bruce, the one player that I think had any arrogance about him was Callum Wilson. He's the only one that would walk around the pitch as if he's playing for Real Madrid, and he's having fights with other players. I like that. The one guy that did that. Everybody else, their heads down. They're scared to tackle. They're scared to do that. This is the other guy. He's the only one that's roaring around and having fights with defenders and looking at people as if, who are you to come play against me? I love that. But if you get a player who's arrogant against the club, and worse, I think, and sorry to any Brentford fans, I think you guys are kneeling over to him way too much. The welcome home you've given him, and how he talks to other, he's essentially told everyone, "I'm leaving. I'm going to greater, bigger things." And you've given him, a night to remember on his welcome back, and you've given them the captaincy. I don't know who was the Brentford captain before that, but he must be seething at that situation. I think that was insane. So, but maybe maybe someone might say that's the genius of Thomas Frank in being able to get his player riled up. We'll see how that works out. I think the money could be paid elsewhere. I think he's at the same time, I think he's a top talent, but I think Newcastle will spend their money elsewhere. I'm looking forward to it actually, in terms of how we pan out. We're especially our front forwards, they're mobile, they're strong, and our conversion rate is pretty high actually as well. We've only scored 5 or 6 goals less than Arsenal. We're one of the top scoring teams, so we know what we're doing. And so I have faith in our recruitment going up front. I don't think that 60, 70 million will be best invested in Ivan Toney.
Right,
Okay,
I have a one-word.
Oh, sorry, Daz.
I was just going to say that I have a one-word question for everyone. So if I offered you Solanke for 50 million or Tony for 60 million, who you're taking? Chris,
Solanke.
you can go first.
Oh my God.
Philip is going for Solanke for 50 million.
Solanke.
Yeah. Josh?
If I had to take one, I mean, I wouldn't buy any of them players for that price, but if I had to, it probably would be Tony. Like,
Chris?
Tony.
Pete?
Tony all day of the week. But it'd be interesting actually to see Eddie Howe's answer to that question.
It would actually, yeah.
But
We're Jordan to ask him.
Very interesting.
His one would be Semedo. That's what his answer would be.
Yeah. What's your answer to that question?
Oh, it'd be Tony. Yeah, Tony for me as well. That's why I was kind of originally when I said 60 million, if 100 million, forget it. No way. And he's not my first option either. It's just that when we were talking before, and Eddie Howe, you know how he's love of Bournemouth, and he's no sporting director to shackle him now either. He could be let loose. So be afraid, be very afraid.
We've signed great players without a sporting director. We have. before Ashworth, and there's no reason why it can't happen afterwards. Actually, to be fair, some of the players that we absolutely love in this squad were bought before Ashworth came to this club. There's no doubt about it. So it's a really interesting one. Right, we're going to whip through some questions now really, really quickly. And the first one that I've just added to the pack is Isak and Willock back in training. Are you starting them Saturday, 8 o'clock kickoff against Arsenal at the Emirates? Boy, are we excited to have these two players back training for us, but would you start them? We'll go around the house to start with Josh, Philip, Chris, Daz. What are you thinking, Josh?
It's a bit of a weird one, right? We'll start with Isak first, or I'll start with Isak first. Of course, against Bournemouth, we didn't have a recognised striker. Of course, we've got young Ben Parkinson, but on the starting 11, Gordon did play there. Look, I absolutely love Anthony Gordon now that he plays for Newcastle United. Undoubtedly, in my opinion, I don't know if you can agree, but he's been the player of the season so far, adding goals and assists to his game. His pace is blistering, but what makes him a fantastic player and why I think he should be a part of that England Euro squad, and why he's actually different to every single winger nowadays, is that he tracks back unbelievably, and when he does get back, he can get forward very quickly. Now, does he go to the left-hand side, and then Harvey Barnes has to come out with a team, and then Alexander Isak goes? And of course, for the both players, it matters if they are match fitness enough. But like I said there, I would love for Isak to start. Undoubtedly, he's one of the most technically gifted and one of the best players in the entire squad. I'd love Isak to be there, and I would start Isak. But does that mean that Gordon would go out to the right, or Gordon would go to the left, and Harvey Barnes has to sit out, and Miggy goes to the right? It kind of differs what happens in the team, but in my opinion, if Isak is fit enough, look, you've got to start him. He's that player where he gets one chance, we're sitting back the whole game, he goes and scores that chance, and we'll win the game 1-0. Probably not going to happen, but football's a crazy game. Joe Willock, on the other hand, though, in my opinion, look, yet again, if he's match fitness enough, 100%, I'd get him in that team with Joe Willock on the left-hand side, Bruno in the middle, and Lewis Miley on the right-hand side. But I don't think Eddie Howe is going to do that. I think Eddie Howe's going to keep Longstaff in the team. Of course, he keep Bruno in the team. And I think he's going to drop Lewis Miley purely because of his age. And of course, he is still a young talent and he's still developing. I'd love to play Lewis Miley ahead of Longstaff, but yes, I would like to start Willock and Isak straight away. If they are both match fit, both fit for the match, 110%, get them in.
Great stuff. Philip, he's starting both. What were you going for?
I would love to start both. I'll probably put Isak up front, Gordon on the right, Barnes on the left, Willock on the left midfield. I'll drop Longstaff, put Miley on the right midfield, and have Bruno in the middle, and feel frightening. I think what Howe will do is more likely is have them on the bench and put them on in the final 15, 20 minutes. And then Blackburn is when he lets them loose. And then we'll progress from there. I think that's what the likely thing will happen. I'll probably do the same thing, to be honest. But I think what would drive that would be fear, because I just had them back and I want to keep them for as long as possible. So, no, I probably wouldn't start them, but I would put them on towards the end of the game, yeah.
Chris, we're going to hold off your opinion. We're going to wait till the away days for that one. Because I want to hear you are lined up. So
I knew you were going to say that. I knew you were going to say that.
Just yet. I'm not going to give my opinion either. But Daz, what are you thinking? What are you going to go for? Or actually, I might hold off on that because I don't know. You may well be on away days as well if you can make it.
Not if I want to keep my job. No.
In that case, give us your answer.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, so I kind of really anyone's. This is a plug for the Irish Mags as well, because I on the show with the lads, I gave my opinion. I said 5 at the back, bring in Chino into the left back, move Dan Byrne into the 3 in the centre, and I'd leave Isak and Willock on the bench. Hopefully we can hold them off, park the bus, then unleash Isak and Willock and go and pray we get maybe snatch a 1-0. Then I'd be all over that. And I think Rich Joplin said earlier, can you imagine the fume then if we got a win against Arsenal? That would be amazing. But yeah,
Even a draw.
so yeah, I
Even
wouldn't
a
back them.
draw.
Oh.
Save them.
Hey,
Yeah.
Eddie Howe, shithouse mags, get them back. I want them back. I want to go to the Emirates and do exactly what we did last season: 0-0, point, celebrate like we've just won 5-0. The fume and look, Chris. I don't think we're going to be holding back with troops and dab pots on Friday. That's for sure.
Go crazy, lads.
Yeah, we will. We will definitely. But look, they're all the kind of like just out there questions. But I think there's a few questions from the chat before we wrap up.
Yeah, some comments coming in as well. This is the second one of these comments about Alfie Harrison scoring for the under-18s team against Man City under-18s tonight as well. Well done there.
What?
Better than another goalkeeper.
There's an interesting one here. Yeah, sorry, this is the other comment from Keelan R3. This one from Jordy 2 for Life. Question is, why are the FA taking so long looking into if Tonali has broken betting rules in the UK? Surely he's serving his punishment. Thoughts on this one? God, we don't want him to have another punishment after this.
Oh God, imagine.
It's still ongoing. Because I don't know, it kind of got said and then went sort of underneath the radar because he'd already been found guilty and was going to be given his suspension. But the FA, on top of what was already kind of put in place as his sanction, were looking to bet it in the UK. And there's been nothing for months. And then all of a sudden, there was an article a few days ago that just popped up to say they still haven't made their decision yet on what's going on. And it's like, we're all preparing for an August return. Wouldn't it just be classic English football, classic to Newcastle United, that all of a sudden we get to the end of the season and go, right, we've got Tonali back and he's buzzing to get back. And then something pops out and just goes, nah, there's another year on top or another 6 months or whatever. It just would be typical to Newcastle United. It really, really would. But what are your thoughts about that, boys?
I think it depends on whether are they investigating the same charges that he was already sentenced for. Then I wouldn't agree with a double punishment. Has he continued doing what he's doing after being punished? Then unfortunately, that they have to investigate it. They can't just say, "Oh, because you're doing something, you've already been essentially given your consequences for the previous time. We're not going to give you another one if he's continued doing it." And that's the unfortunate thing about it. So hopefully it's a bit of nothing, to be honest.
Anyone else got an opinion on this? It's a tough one. You don't want to think about it, really, do you?
No, it isn't fair thinking about.
You know me as well, boys, how much I love Tonali, honestly. Oh my God, I've never... Do you know what it is? It's just my luck, you know, to love a player like Tonali so much. Of course, my overseas team is AC Milan, as you can see there. The only half and half scarf I'll ever buy in my life. I was so excited for him coming because I even followed him when he was at Brescia on loan. And no, he wasn't on loan, sorry. He was at Brescia, then he went on loan to Milan and bought him permanently. But I watched him at Brescia... funnily enough, because I bought him on FIFA like 4 years ago or something. And everything about him I absolutely adore. He's just got this aura around him. He's short passing is unreal. The tenacity, the intensity, he absolutely emulates how we play as a football team.
Yeah.
That debut against Aston Villa, oh my God. And then I've seen some fans actually going into the season, Tonali is the reason the midfield doesn't work. And look, in my opinion, no, it was a bit long ago now, lads, but going into the season, Anthony Gordon and Tonali were the two best performing players. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how Tonali was getting the flack there. Bruno and Joelinton were definitely off form. Of course, Joelinton got injured at the start of the season. But, oh my God, if he got another ban, I don't know what I'd do with my life, lads. Honest to God. The thing
Josh,
is actually, go on, mate.
No, I was going to say, I was going to recommend a loaded video to you. You must check out the Tonali prophecy. I'll send you the link because... It's quality. It
talks a little bit about this as well.
Paul from the football manager expert, Paul from Irish Mags. It talks about a little bit of that is right.
What I did want to say though, I think it would be unbelievably, maybe not unbelievably, but I think it would be a bit unprofessional from the FA. You know, this massive organisation to wait until Tonali's nearly unbanned to ban him again. Look, they should have done it when he was banned from the Italian. They should have made it clear at Newcastle United and absolutely everything to everyone what's going on. If you're going to ban him, you know, you have to speed these things up and make sure it happens. You can't just wait and get all the hopes up and then do it. I think it would be very unprofessional from them. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to sort of hint at anything saying he is going to get banned, but I did see a clip which I thought was very, very concerning. When we played Aston Villa, I seen this, right, and it definitely is real because I can remember seeing it at the match. Yet again, I don't want to say it's true, it's not, but when Tonali was getting substituted at the end of the match, he was literally right next to Eddie Howe, and the fourth official was telling him to get off, and he was literally you could see him standing there, and Eddie Howe was saying, come on, get off. He stood there for about 30 seconds, he got a yellow card, and then he went off. Look, I mean, there was no reason for him not to go off. Maybe that's hinting at something. I don't want to say that whatsoever, because you know me, I want the absolute best for Tonali, but it was very concerning when I seen that video.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I didn't see it for a while after, but honestly, I seen it, and he was just waiting about, standing there for no reason whatsoever. He was getting substituted, got yellow carded, and he went straight off. And Eddie Howe, it looked like Eddie Howe was really distressed with him as well, as you would be.
I hope they were lost in translation. His English wasn't very good. I was saying, come off. He probably thought you're praising his performance. It's like, thank you, and it just took a little bit longer to come off. I hope that was it.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
That's interesting. That I think on a positive note, boys. I mean, and this for me, this will be worst case scenario. If the FA were to give Tonali an extended ban, I can't see it being a lengthy one, and I don't think it would be anywhere near as lengthy as the initial one. Like I was just counting in my head then, thinking, right, so if he's back in August, even if they were to see out the rest of 2024, that would be 4 months. And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't he get 8 months ban? So it wouldn't. So it wouldn't surprise me if they were to, ban him again, that they give him 4 months and then he'd be back in the January. That's not saying that's what I want to happen, but I'm just thinking I don't think they just slap him with another 8-month one. I just don't.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it anymore. This banning of players. A fresh start into next season.
By the way, what happened with Zaniolo? Because Zaniolo,
I was just going to say that.
And he's still playing and everything's fine.
Yeah.
Basically, there was I can't remember his name. The Juventus player who
Fagioli.
Basically, that's the one. He basically shat on the Tonali and the other guy from Villa,
Zaniolo.
Yeah, he basically told everyone everything. And that reduced his ban because he was really heavily involved in it all. But because he spilled the beans, that basically cut his sentence kind of in terms of its ban by a lot. It was significant. Zaniolo, I think, had done something similar. And he was less involved in terms of, I think, put less amount of bets on or close next to nothing. So I don't even think he ended up getting a ban off the back of that, which is crazy, really. But the one thing, and we'll move on from this, but the one thing that concerns me is that even if it is 4 months, Chris, it changes our summer plans massively.
Yeah, it does.
Because we're still, I think he might miss the first 1 or 2 games of the season off the back of the fact that he's banned till the end of August. But that's not the worst thing in the world. He'll have a preseason with the lads. He's training with the lads now. He might not have a preseason match, but it will only, for me, if you're regularly training, it won't take that long to get back up to speed in terms of playing football. When you're a professional athlete, it shouldn't take you too much longer. And he can have behind closed door involvement matches with other teams and stuff in. Maybe not other teams, but he can certainly have them with his own squad of players in pre-season to get him back up to speed. But what it means is that we've got a void there to fill until January, because there's a hell of a lot of games between August and January that we need to fill. And that's a concern. And Newcastle United aren't going to want that, because they're going to be planning with having him ready. They're going to want to buy a midfielder to come in to complement what they've already got with Tonali, with Bruno, fingers crossed, and others. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. But I don't want to think about further bans. Like we've only just, I think all of us as a fan base got our heads around the fact that he's coming back in August, and that we're getting closer to that date. to extend that would just be a nightmare.
I don't want to do another go full True Geordie again, Pete. I can't go through that again. It was traumatic enough that the first time that we had to do that. But okay, we'll move on. Shout out to TOON Dave, who became a loaded ultra. Nice one, TOON Dave.
Nice
Welcome to the family. You're in good company with Philip there as well. Just also wanted to, there was another name in the hat for sporting director. Paulie G's name has been touted now for a sporting director. So
Paulie G.
You never know.
He's in the chat tonight, wasn't he?
He's in the chat. Yeah,
Paulie G for a while.
Yeah.
Well, Bob.
Yeah, good man.
Good to see you, mate. Then, we've got another question. Maybe we'll finish with this question. Okay. The question says from the clan, it says, did Man United make an illegal approach for on Ashworth? I know you can't tap up a player. How about a director of football? But at the same time, linking it back to us, we went directly to Brighton to get Dan Ashworth. We didn't go wait 2 months talking about potentially going for him, and go to him, and then roundabout going to the club. I think we went direct to Brighton. So, what's anyone's thoughts on this?
I think with Man United, obviously their takeover, as you said, was only completed yesterday, and so they couldn't legally do anything I don't know legally, but they couldn't really do anything, make any firm plans. They always had plans in the pipeline, but they couldn't do anything permanently, I think, and had to had to do something, get certain things in place. So, but obviously the conversations were already being had before that. At the end of the day, he's friends with Brailsford, and I'm sure while they were lounging on the yacht somewhere, Brailsford turned around to him, looked into his eyes and said, would you like to play for Man United? Or directly a director for Man United? And he said, yes. And then I'll wait for you to take over the club first, or partially take over the club. And I think that's what happened. But I'll be honest, I think even if they did an illegal move, I'd only want our owners to pursue it if we can get some money from suing them, but not necessarily. If he wants to go, he wants to go. At the end of the day, I wouldn't worry about him. I would worry more about the people that want to stay at Newcastle and want us to win trophies, really.
Yeah, I agree.
Let's leave it there in the questions then guys. Maybe we'll just, because I know there was a question here from E2 Trader, and I want to ask you the same question, Philip. But Ian asked, has Josh got a channel? So, Josh, tell us where everyone can find you.
I'm sure it's hyperlinked, isn't it?
It's hyperlinked, yeah, on the channel.
We'll see at the end, anyways. We know how the streams go, man. It does. Since it's the end, shall I show you what I was talking about at the start?
Oh, yeah.
Go the full screen. Here, hang on.
Go on.
There you go.
I'm trying not to ruin the momentum of the Newcastle United because it's not linked with Newcastle United. It's your favourite man.
KK! Love it. So you're giving this to me?
No, I'm not giving it.
I'll be in Newcastle at Easter, Josh, to collect it, all right?
All right.
Love it. That's quality.
Yeah, it's
cheers, Josh.
Hopefully we got the Kravitskhelia shirt 77 in black and white.
I was just gonna say that, yeah.
Oh,
you never know.
Definitely get the name on the back there.
Oh, 100%.
Hey, it cost you about $1 to get it.
Will do.
Do they still pay? They don't pay for individual letters now, do they?
No. It's just £10 set in store now, I'm sure.
That's all right.
As it should be.
I wonder what number Adam P will get in the jersey, though. If he wants to write, will he get the 77 or we go?
It's got to be 70. It's got to be 77, hasn't it?
He'll do it. He's normally spot on. I think he's got one or two. He's normally spot on.
Yeah.
But look, that's the end of the questions. That's the end of Talking Toon. Great discussions. Most of it taken up with Ashworth, but quite rightly so with all the news that's coming out tonight. And it's great to get your opinions on it, lads, tonight, because it's always good to get a different perspective. But actually, I think we're all kind of aligned, really, in our opinions on this situation. I think most Newcastle fans are. And this is something that's definitely brought Newcastle United fans together, albeit being kind of an up and down consistency form of Newcastle. This is definitely kind of brought everyone together, because we're fighting against an enemy, we're fighting against a rival, and we are not going to let them bully us. And Darren Eels has made the point, and I'll put this on the chat because I think this is very much needed right now. Dan Ashworth, Sir Jim, you want him? Pay up. Pay up. And he said it himself. Pay the money. You want him? Pay the money. But look, massive thanks to Geordie Josh. Thank you, Josh, for joining us. Great opinions for, tonight, as always. And Philip, brilliant debut. Great opinions, and really kind of complimented the chat really well. Apologies for Geordie Dread Specs, who had to leave earlier. He will be back, no doubt about it. And of course, thank you to everyone in the chat. Super questions. Apologies if we didn't get through them all, but we got through a good few. Talking to is going to be back. We're going to be back talking all things Newcastle United and topics again. But just shout out to Irish Mags. If you haven't watched the show, go watch it. Came out today. Our very own Dash Shocks was on there talking all things Newcastle United. Yeah, just ignore the slander in the first 5 minutes of me. Irish roots. But if you forget that, ignore that first 5 minutes. Get on to the rest, because it is a really good chat. Those Irish boys are top stuff. And some talk about Alex Murphy as well. One of our up and coming talent.
Great chat about Alex Murphy. Just a quick shout out to the sponsor as well. We're here because it slips my mind, and we get with a little conversation with Russ as well. If you're watching, Russ, great to meet you. We finally got to meet you, but shout out to the radiatorshed.com and all the beautiful radiators that are available through Russ, and we've got new pictures, new ways to promote coming as well. So keep an eye out for that, and also shout out to H2O Bathroom Design Co. and all the beautiful bathrooms that are available there through the lads there. And actually, we'll mention it verbally. We will put some details as well. Talk to us if you're in the market for radiators, at least, because mention Loaded, you get a 20% discount. Now, we'll have official details on that coming soon, but a 20% discount, that is some discount if you think about it, because those kind of things add up. So, make sure to mention Loaded, and Russ will sort you out. But that's it for that. Make sure you subscribe to TOON Tactics TV and to Geordie Josh, and you can follow them on all the socials. I'm sure we'll see them again sometime soon. That's it, I think. Oh, boy, we have to tell you what's happening as well. What's coming, because there's a big one happening on Thursday, boys, and it's at a really unusual time as well. That's why I can't make it. But tell us about this, Pete.
Yeah, it's actually on Friday.
I was going to say, I was panicking then, thinking, am I going to say something on time?
That's Friday in the Loaded household, because it's actually Friday at 2:30, so it's an earlier start time. We'll get those tweets out nice and early and on all social, so you're aware. We've got, of course, 12th man, the main man at the top of the chain, Dan Potts, is coming to join him, and he's bringing a friend. He's bringing Troops from Troops TV, formerly known from Barstool, and as well Arsenal Fans TV. Massive thanks to Troops for taking the time to come and join us, and we're really looking forward to having that chat. And as we said, we're not going to hold back, are we, Chris? We're going to tell it exactly how it is in terms of what we want Newcastle United to do at the Emirates on Saturday night. And I'm sure anybody that knows Troops, he's not going to hold back either. So it should make for a really good discussion. We might have Dan Potts in the middle, just trying to navigate everything and make sure that everything's okay. But really good chat. Going to smash out a preview. So come and join the chat. Get your comments and questions in. Really looking forward to it. So make sure you tune in for that one.
Friday 2:30. Yes, confused with the days there. But then on at the moment it's down to Sunday evening, Sunday night. We will be back with the Loaded reaction to the game itself, unless we win. Then we're going late into the night, lads. We're going. It might be 11 o'clock, but we're going in with the show. But keep an eye out for that. But yes, at the moment down for Sunday, I think at 7:30 we'll see. That's it. Thanks again to Josh, to Specs, and to Philip for joining us tonight. I suppose the only thing left to say is, how'd you like that? Good night, everyone. Take care.
Drink it